Chapter 1, The Living World. How wonderful is the living world! The wide range of living type is amazing. The extraordinary habits in which we find living organisms, be it cold mountains, deciduous forests, oceans, freshwater lakes, deserts, or hot springs, leave us speechless. The beauty of a galloping horse, of the migrating birds, the valley of flowers, or the attacking sharks evokes awe and a deep sense of wonder. The ecological conflict and cooperation among members of a population and among populations of a community or even the molecular traffic inside a cell makes us deeply reflect on what indeed is life. This question has two implicit questions within it. The first is a technical one and seeks answer to what living is as opposed to the non-living. And the second is the physiological one and seeks answer to what the purpose of life is. A scientist will shall not attempt answering the second question. We will try to reflect on what is living. Diversity in the living world. If you look around, you will see a large variety of living organisms, be it potted plant, insects, birds, your pet, or other animals and plants. There are also several organisms that you can't see with your naked eye, but they are all around you. If you were to increase the area that you make observations in the range and variety of organisms that you see would increase. Obviously, if you were to visit a dense forest, you would probably see a much greater number and kinds of living organisms in it. Each different kind of plant, animal, or organism that you see represents a different species. The number of species that are known and described range between 1.7 to 1.8 million. This refers to biodiversity or the number and types of organisms present on Earth. We should remember here that as we explore new areas and even old ones, new organisms are continuously being identified. As stated earlier, there are millions of plants and animals in the world. We know the plants and animals in our own area be by their local names. These local names would vary from place to place, even within a country. Probably you would recognize the confusion that would be created if we did not find ways and means to talk to each other to refer to organisms we are talking about. Hence, there is a need of standardizing the naming of living organisms such that a particular organism is known by the same name all over the world. This process is called nomenclature. Obviously, nomenclature or naming is only possible when the organism is described correctly and we know to what organism the name is attached to. This is identification. In order to facilitate the study, number of scientists have estimated procedures to assign a scientific name to each known organism. This is acceptable to biologists all over the world. For plants, scientific names are based on agreed principles and criteria, which are provided in International Code for Botanical Nomenclature ICBN. You may ask, our animals named? Animal taxonomists have evolved International Code of Zoological Nomenclature ICZN. The scientific names ensure that each organism has only one name. Description of any organism should enable the people in any part of the world to arrive at the same name. They also ensure that such a name has not been used for any other known organisms. Biologists follow universal accepted principles to provide scientific names to known organisms. Each name has two components, the generic name and the specific epithet. This system of providing a name with two components is called as binomial nomenclature. This naming system was given by Carlos Linnaeus is being practiced by biologists all over the world. This naming system using a two-word format was found convenient. Let us take the example of mango to understand the way of producing scientific name better. The scientific name of mango is written as Mangifera indica. Let us use how it is a binomial name. In this, name Mangifera represents the genus, while indica is a particular species or a specific epithet. Other universal rules for nomenclature are as follows. First one, biological name are generally in Latin and written in italics. They are Latinized or derived from Latin irrespective of their origin. Second one, the first word in a binomial name represents the genus, while the second component denotes the specific epithet. Third one, both the words in a biological name, when handwritten, are separately underlined or printed in italics to indicate their Latin origin. Fourth one, the first word denoting the genus starts with a capital letter, while the specific epithet starts with a small letter. It can be illustrated with the example of Mangifera indica with the capital letter. Name of the author appears after the specific epithet, that is, at the end of the biological name, and is written in an abbreviated form. For example, Mangifera indica Linn. It indicates that this species was first described by Linnaeus. Since it is nearly impossible to study all the living organisms, it is necessary to devise some means to make this possible. This process is classification. Classification is the process by which anything is grouped into convenient categories based on some easily observable characters. For example, we easily recognize groups such as plants or animals or dogs, cats or insects. The moment we use any of these terms, we associate certain characteristics with the organism in that group. What image do you see when you think of a dog? Obviously, each one of us will see dogs and not cats. Now, if we were to think of Celestians, we know what we are talking about. Similarly, suppose we were to say mammals, you would of course think of animals with external ears and body hairs. Likewise, in plants, if we try to talk of wheat, the picture in each of our minds will be of wheat plant, not of rice or any other plant. Hence, all these dogs, cats, mammals, wheat, rice, plants, animals, etc. are convenient categories we use to study organisms. The scientific term for these categories is called taxa. Similarly, animals, mammals, dogs are all taxa, but you know that a dog is a mammal and mammals are animals. Therefore, animals, mammals, and dogs represent taxa at different levels. Hence, based on characteristics, all living organisms can be classified into different taxa. This process of classification is called taxonomy. external and internal structure, along with the structure of cell development process and ecological information of organisms, are essential and form the basics of modern taxonomic studies. Hence, characterization, identification, classification, and nomenclature are the processes that are basics to taxonomy. Taxonomy is not something new. Human beings have always been interested in knowing more and more about the various kinds of organisms, particularly with reference to their own use. In early days, human beings needed to find sources for their basic needs of food, clothing, and shelter. Hence, the earliest classification were based on the uses of various organisms. Human beings were since long not only interested in knowing more about the different kind of organisms and their diversities, but also the relationships among them. This branch of study was referred to as systematics. The word systematics is derived from the Latin word systema, which means systematic arrangement of organisms. Linnaeus used Systema Naturae as the title of his publication. The scope of systematics was later enlarged to include identification, nomenclature, and classification. Systematics takes into account evolutionary relationships between organisms.